All right, here's the plan for Crown of Cosmos. We're going to set up down here on pool. First target is Demiar that we're going to call D. Second target is Morium that we're going to call M. Third target is Voralus that we're going to call V. On pool, we all begin attacking Demiar, and range stays at the edge of the platform. The reason range is at the edge of the platform is because you're going to bait a ability called Void Expulsion, and that's going to spawn on one random range player instantly. So we need to be in position prior to it being shot off. When the first two captain's mark arrows are targeted on two players, those two players are going to fire their first marks into Morium and Voralus, as outlined by those arrows there. To assist in getting there, we'll have a lock gate set up that enables the raid to quickly move across to here. One of the tanks is going to be on Morium. We're going to have a healer standing about here that's able to heal the tank and parts of the raid. When we get into the next section, Demiar, the last arrow, the third arrow, is going to be fired into Demiar, and left behind where we were seated is going to be all of the void expulsions. So the first void expulsion will have been spawned underneath one of the ranged players. The other two void expulsions are on random players. They have to run those void expulsions to the edge of the room and place them near the other one. Ranged players move around to the edge of the room again, because again, we will have a random player hit with void expulsion and it will spawn instantly. So we need to bait that to the edge of the room. Then we continue attacking Morium. The third arrow is killed off Demiar at this point, and all the other arrows at this point are shot off into space. We'll then end up with a bunch of Void Expulsion puddles over here after the other two players have gone and placed theirs next to the original one. Morium will be killed. The whole raid will move across. Again, range sitting at the edge of the platform to bait the shots, bait the Void Expulsion puddles, and then we kill off Voralus. Once they're all dead, we'll go into phase two. All of the captain's marks at this stage are shot off into space away from the rest of the raid. When we get into phase two, the Simulacrum will be in the middle. Illyria will be about here. The tank will pull Illyria to here. All players will position themselves in the top quadrant of one of these, in the top third of one of these cutoff fissure areas. The ranged players will position themselves right at the edge over here because they will bait the first void expulsion that will instantly cast under one of them. After that's happened, the entire raid will move downward or to your right if you're looking at the boss, away from where that first puddle was baited. Two random players, a ranged or a melee, will then get another void expulsion cast on them. Their job is to run up next to that previous void expulsion and place those puddles there. At the same time as this is happening, three ads will spawn in the room. The three ads are going to get gripped by the DK, is going to pull in two of them. The third one is going to need to be interrupted. And then they will all get pulled in to where the raid has repositioned and is standing with Illyria. Those puddles will be out here, out of the way of the raid, which is the reason we all move. After that happens, there'll be a ricochet arrow that fires through three players. It'll go from tank A, which is the one on Illyria, into player B, then into player C. The arrows must hit those ads that were pulled in. There is no priority for those players other than hitting the ads. That is the only thing that matters at this point. So we pull them into the whole raid. We do this because if the whole raid is pulled in, when the arrow is fired, the whole raid also gets hit by the arrow, which removes a stacking debuff that builds up on certain players in the raid. And when that shot fires, that is when the tanks will do their taunt swap. After that taunt swap happens, the simulacrum will take place of Illyria in the middle of the room and will have a cosmic barrier on them. The entire raid burns through and kills that cosmic barrier on the simulacrum. Once they've killed the cosmic barrier, the tanks then taunt swap again, and Illyria will return to her previous position in the center. The range move as a stack toward where those previous puddles were to bait the first void expulsion. The entire raid shuffles down to the right a little bit. Three ads spawn again, just like last time. The DKs grip and pull them into the new location the raid has moved to. One of them gets interrupted, so it comes in too. After that's all happened, two other players are going to get targeted, and those two players are going to have to run and put their void expulsions where that first one was placed. The ads are all getting gripped and pulled in at the same time as that's happening. Again, a ricocheting arrow is fired that needs to hit all three of the ads and any of the debuff players. So everyone should be just attempting to get hit by that ricocheting arrow. Once that has happened, we repeat this over and over and over as we move around the platform. And we're baiting the void expulsions all the way behind us as we keep moving. When we cut across this fissure here, in the center of the room and we move to another spot, let's just say we end up down here in this spot over here. As we cross this fissure, everyone gets a 12-second dot placed on them. So you can't run back and forward across the fissure or you'll build up stacking dots. You stay on the side that you've moved to. Once you get there, we need big defensives used, AMZs, darkness, all that kind of stuff to be able to survive that moment. Once the simulacrum is killed, we'll transition into phase 2.5, which I haven't got in the PowerPoint, which is easy enough. I'll talk about that when we get there. And then phase 3. When phase 3 starts, 3 players are going to be targeted like by a tether. There's going to be 1 tank, 1 melee, and 1 ranged. When we break these tethers, the melee breaks it first. They run out. When they break it, an AoE explosion goes off that damages the whole raid. 3 seconds later, I'll do a count. The ranged player will run out and they'll break theirs. Another explosion goes off that hits the whole raid. And then finally, the tank will run out and break theirs, which will cause the last explosion that hits the whole raid. If all 3 players run out at the same time, all 3 explosions go off at the same time and everyone dies. While that is happening, there will also be these grass of emptiness that are spawned on 2 of the players, just like in the previous mechanics, and they just need to be fired away from the raid. So I'll be pinging the point that everyone runs to. Everyone runs to that point, which will automatically pull the arrows in the opposite direction and give us space to be able to begin that process again. It will all happen at the same time. So 3 players are going to be targeted a second time with the breaks, and we will be breaking them in the same order: melee first, 3 seconds later ranged, 3 seconds later tank. At the same time, these puddles are going to be spawned. So the entire raid is going to be shuffling down to the right, out of the way of those puddles, following where I'm pinging. Now, once that has happened twice, that whole third of the platform will no longer be usable. There'll be little feathers at the edge of the platform. You grab one of those feathers, it increases your jump distance. You run to the edge of the platform, you jump across to get to the new section, and then we repeat the process again. The same thing happens. 3 players are targeted by the tethers. We break them, melee first, range second, tank third, with a gap between so we don't all explode. And then all of these arrows are fired out in a different direction. That will happen 2 times on this platform. We will then jump to the third platform. And once we're on the third platform, there's nowhere else to go. That's the DPS check, and we need to make sure the boss is killed by then. That's it. If everyone can do those mechanics, this fight is going to be very easy.